Hello, BookTube. I've got some mail for you today on an overcast, very gloomy day. It is not cold. It's not even sharp outside. Perfect walking around weather, but I do not have a walking companion who wants to go out walking around in weather like this because it is promising rain. I haven't looked at the data yet today, but I'd be willing to bet that it's going to rain sometime in the next 2 or 3 hours, and probably rain 4 hours. All attempts at raising enthusiasm for dog walks have not gone well. They've not gone over well with my moody little princess. This is the perfect day for cuddling and snuggling on the fainting couch and also doing a ton of reading. But you'll notice I'm not on the fainting couch for this video. Instead, we're in the little book room that we know so well. This is my sanctum sanctorum. This is my favorite place. Full of the books that mean the most to me. I would ordinarily be on the fainting couch, but a couple of the other rooms here at Hyde Cottage are currently being used at the moment, and I thought rather than wait, and maybe wait too long, and my videos go up too late for a lot of you anyway, I thought rather than do that, I would make a video here in the little book room where I've made thousands of videos. So, although it's odd, because when I start, I always forget how I ever did that. But we've got 3 periodicals and 3 packages here, so that won't take too long. The first periodical is Condé Nast Traveler. This is a square-bound glossy magazine of travel. The front half is ads and whatnot for spots and vacation villas and whatnot. And then the back half has considered longer pieces, travel log type pieces. They can be quite good. I started subscribing to this when in 2016, after the presidential election in 2016, I realized that I wanted my magazine coverage, the magazines coming here to Hyde Cottage, to change in nature. I did not want them to be political anymore. I wanted them to be as non-political as possible, fluff. So I subscribed to a whole bunch of things that I'd only heard about or sold in bookstores, but never actually read. And there were a whole bunch of travel magazines there. Condé Nast Travel, I believe, is the only one to survive. The others seem to have dropped by the wayside and not asked me to resubscribe. But this kind of a thing fulfills a whole bunch of purposes. One, of course, is for me to travel vicariously. My traveling days are over, so it's a lot of fun for a magazine like this to profile places where I have never been. Australia or New Zealand are popular profile subjects for magazines like this. But also, I would say it's even more fun for them to profile a place where I have been. For instance, in this issue, there's a long article about Sicily, where I spent a great deal of time. So they're always fun. I admit I usually skip to the back half and read the actual travelogue articles first. Sometimes some of the writers they get are quite good. I'd love to write for them myself. But the one thing that magazines like this don't do is any kind of retrospective column. The only kind of column that I could write for them, the only kind of feature I could write for them, would be reflecting on travels in some spot. I could do that quite well. It'd be wonderful, of course, it'd be wonderful to write for a square-bound glossy magazine. That would be a dream. But I am well below their radar, and I believe I will stay that way. But that's not true for every publication. For instance, there's the Bedford Times Press in Bedford, Iowa, in lovely Taylor County. This is a small-town newspaper that has, what is the headline here? Students volunteer in cleanup effort for bulldog beautification. See, so it's completely local news, ribbon cuttings, and that sort of thing. But right inside the first fold is my column, my Ex Libris column, that I write every week for the Bedford Times Press, and would be happy to write for your own local newspaper. I'm not getting many bites on that line, no matter how many times I say it, but nevertheless, I'd be happy to write for your own local newspaper. I'd be happy to let them have this column, to extend my reach, to cover the whole of the globe. So what was on my mind when I wrote this thing? I write my columns on the weekends, and it's not local to Iowa, it's not local to Taylor County, it's just general book ruminations. It's been an enormous amount of fun doing this. Just an enormous amount of fun to be writing a column again for a print newspaper, especially in Iowa. So if you're in Iowa and you have a small town newspaper and you'd like to jazz it up with my Ex Libris column, feel free to put in a word for me. It doesn't matter whether or not you know the editor of that newspaper. They will certainly know that you're a local. tell them a former local who loves Iowa has a book column that might be of interest. But what was on my mind here? Even in these pandemic days, I usually get a large amount of books in the mail every week. Quite a few of these are things I've requested, forthcoming titles that look interesting, but quite a few of them are random moonshots taken by publicists, hoping they'll intrigue me enough to provoke some kind of review or notice. Those moonshots are a time-honored part of the publishing world. You determine whether or not a person has a sizable audience or readership. I'm a long-time book reviewer and a book columnist and a newspaper book section editor, so I qualify. And you send them a copy of one of your upcoming releases. You'll risk the cost of the postage on the chance that such a person will like your book enough to do some potentially lucrative free publicity for you. And it goes on from there to talk about bookstores, believe it or not. I segue from that to bookstores. So that's the Bedford Times Press. They do not need to be hogging me all to themselves. The Bedford Times Press and the Lenox Timetable in Iowa, they don't need to be hogging me all to themselves. If you are in Iowa or if you're anywhere else in the world, feel free. This column is for bookish interest. I would say it would be perfectly fine even outside the United States. It's mostly just about general bookish items. And I'd love to appear in your local newspaper so that you could take a picture of the paper resting next to your little dog and send me that picture. That's pretty much all the reward that I would be expecting. Then the other paper is the Vineyard Gazette, the Martha's Vineyard Gazette, which is a bigger thing than the Bedford Times Press, but still very local. Still an entirely local newspaper that talks about vineyard wildlife. The columns in the back are vineyard wildlife. Vineyard events, what is the headline for this? Okay, this is a broadsheet, and broadsheets tend not to have big banner headlines. So we have a bunch instead. Circuit Avenue debuts new streetscape, Housing Bank approved, spending measures, Housing Bank get nod in Chilmark, MV Youth Scholarship, total $865,000, and there are the MV Youth, including somebody who's on crutches. Lovely. Love to know the story behind that. And the reason why I get the Vineyard Gazette in the mail is because I am their book editor. Oh, no, I'm not their book editor. I keep making that mistake. I swear, it's not a Freudian slip. I'm already a book editor. I'm their book reviewer. This issue, for instance, has a review of the book that we saw on this channel, Full. Always wonderful to do. Always wonderful to write a review for the Vineyard Gazette. It'll either be of a book that's about Martha's Vineyard, or it'll be a book by somebody who lives on the vineyard and wrote a book on any subject they like. This one, if you remember from when we hauled it on this channel, is about a social media influencer who's not quite as perfect as she seems. Delightful thing to write and review. I've got a little lineup of reviews to write for the Gazette, so I'm back in business. The reviews tend to go a little quiescent in the off season, but the vineyard is gearing up for the season. So, and those are the periodicals, and then we'll have the packages. There are no boxes, but there is a priority mail envelope. It's possible that one of you has broken rule number 1. For those of you who are new to this channel, rule number 1 is don't send me a book, no matter how natural and tempting it seems. Because all I ever do is talk about books, and I am, as you saw, surrounded by them. Still don't do it. Still don't send me a book. It's a bad idea to send me a book. I will either already have it, or I won't want it. And either way, it's a waste of your time and mine. But what have we got here? These are from, this one's from a publisher, so we don't have to worry about that. I always want books from publishers. This is from Soho Press, and this is called Sacrificio by Ernesto Mestre Reed. It comes out in early September. Okay, so I don't have to worry about this for a long time. That is the requisite hideous American cover. This is set in Cuba in 1998. This is the author's first novel in nearly 20 years and is a triumphant and mesmeric work of violence, loss, and identity, following a group of young HIV-positive counter-revolutionaries who seek to overthrow the Castro government. A lot of moving parts there. In his first 2 novels, this author captivated critics as an original new voice in Cuban America literature with his symphonic imagination, according to the New York Times, and dazzling word portraits, according to Francisco Goldman. And now in this book, a spellbinding novel that evinces its 10-year investment of artistry in stunning poeticism, intricate storytelling, and a discerning balance of intimacy and expansiveness. The author delivers a sensational moment in contemporary literary fiction on the level of Rebecca Mackay's The Great Believers. That level, huh? Good Lord. to aspire to such heights. Cementing his place as an essential novelist of the Cuban diaspora. Okay, well, that's great. That's fantastic. The implication here that the author's been working on this novel for 10 years is nonsense. Of course. Of course it is. No matter what you have heard, no matter how many times you've heard that from canonical authors or currently working authors, no matter how many times you've heard that line of sheep dip, just remember, it's nonsense. No one works on a novel for 10 years. Okay? They work on a novel for the same amount of time that all novels are worked on, about a year. And all the rest of the time, they're navel-gazing and telling people at parties and whatever that they are working on a novel. They are not. Working means working. Doesn't mean thinking about working. It means working. Anyway, what have we got here? Set in 1998 Cuba, this novel is both a sweeping portrait of a nation in slow collapse and a profoundly moving story of a young man, Rafa, finding himself as he searches for his missing friend, Renato. The novel is as informative as it is marvelously imaginative. We're laying it on a little thick here, aren't we? Delving into a complex historic moment when the Cuban government forced HIV-positive citizens into lifetime quarantines in sanitariums, unintentionally creating a space for queer culture to thrive. As Rafa searches for Renato through various haunts in Havana, from mostly abandoned AIDS sanitarium to a phantasmagorical slum on the outskirts of the capital, the novel depicts Cuba's underground queer culture in fascinating detail and, taking it one step further, makes it a birthplace of revolution as a group of young HIV-positive counter-revolutionaries plan a violent overthrow of the Castro government during John Paul II's upcoming visit. So there is an actual plot to this thing. It's not just atmospheric. There's an actual plot to this thing about a plan to overthrow the government. Okay, great. Well, I mean, I don't need to think about this book at all for a long time. A long hot summer will intervene before I even have to think about this thing. But put it on your radar. Sacrificio. So it'll be a gay, a queer, an HIV novel coming out in the fall. Then we have one of these cardboard packages. No idea what the sound is going to be like in this particular filming setup. We'll have to hope it's not all that bad. This is a finished copy. Oh, great. Fantastic. All right. This is a finished copy, so this is probably due sooner. June the 7th. This comes out in early June. You dinosaur fans are going to want to put this on your list. This is by David K. Randall, and it is The Monster's Bones, the discovery of T-Rex and how it shook our world. The Tyrannosaurus Rex is perhaps the most iconic animal the world has ever seen. It was the most iconic dinosaur. It's not more iconic than a lion, but it's the most iconic dinosaur by a wide margin. A child's conception of a monster become real. While it seems that T-Rex has always been a fixture of modern culture, it is 66 million years old. This beast was entirely new to the public just over 100 years ago. In this book, best-selling author David K. Randall takes us back to that time and tells the riveting story of the race to find dinosaur fossils, the complicated forces behind it, and how T-Rex informed our understanding of the planet and our place in it. Best-selling author David K. Randall. His name certainly rings a bell. We'll find out who he is. I think I might have read something by this guy. Oh, God, Lord, look at the size of this. It's, okay, well, this, there's like 5,000 words of description here. I'm certainly not going to bore you with all of that. You'll already know, right, a lot of this. You'll know Othniel Marsh and Henry Fairfield Osborne and all of the usual suspects. Where do you wind up when you run out of room? Where do you do that? Finally, Randall connects his story to the current global moment by showing how the T-Rex craze gave scientists a fuller picture of dinosaurs, in turn teaching us how a changing climate can eradicate the dominant forms of life. In the end, he writes, that could be the most important lesson we can draw from the fearsome reign of T-Rex. In the battle for life on Earth, the climate always wins. Okay, well, I'm not 100% sure that Everest-sized asteroid striking the Earth is part of the climate. I'm not sure that Greta Thunberg can do anything about such a thing. But there is a video. I've referred to it many times before. I'll find it and leave a link to it. I'll make sure to do it. Where a dinosaur scientist talks about the T-Rex remains, and it is amazing to listen. It's like 40 minutes long. It's amazing to listen through him and learn how much can be learned from bones and trackways and whatnot. It's amazingly good. I could stand to listen to it again myself, so I'll make sure to find it. But who is David K. Randall when he's at home? He is a New York Times bestselling author of Dreamland, The King and Queen of Malibu, and Black Death at the Golden Gate. Oh. Okay, he's a senior reporter for Reuters, and he lives in Montclair, New Jersey, but it's Black Death at the Golden Gate that I remember him from. We hauled that on this channel. So this comes out in early June. This is a June release. We have all of May to get to before we get to this, but great. Fantastic. Like I mentioned the other day, there are only a couple of dinosaur books coming out this year from major publishers designed for a broad readership, and this is one of them. So, The Monster's Bones. How fantastic. And then we have the Priority Mail package, which usually is not from a publisher. We've seen it a couple of times, but it's usually from one of you, breaking rule number one. There's been a lot of email chatter. I leave my email on every video. You are perfectly free to email me at any time about anything. That is not a dummy account. That is not a merch store. That is not a second cousin once removed I'm yelling at to take care of my mail. That's my inbox. And I have hundreds of email conversations going on now and have been for a long time. And I love it. It's no imposition to me at all. Just be aware of the fact that of two things. One is that despite, to all appearances, being an idle, sexy influencer, I actually do have quite a bit to do every day. And two, so I might not get to your email right away. I mean, it might not be an immediate response. If it's immediate response, it's because you've written something quick and easy to answer, or because I've gotten your email when I am avoiding a deadline, when I'm procrastinating on a deadline, and will take any kind of lifeline to waste time somewhere else. But usually it takes a little longer than that. That's thing number one to remember. And thing number two to remember is that if your email resembles work, my mind is almost certainly going to categorize it that way, and it could take even longer or not get done at all. If you send me a 5,000-word email, I'm almost certainly not even going to read it to the end before I slot it into some sort of work folder and say, all right, I'll get back to that. Because when I'm on the computer and my fingers are flying away and I'm typing and I'm idly petting the bean, I'm working to get as much done as possible. I'm not just taking everything in sequence as it comes along. So my advice would be to keep your email rather than make it a doctoral dissertation. But there's been quite a snappy little conversation going on in those emails with people wondering if sending me an ebook counts as violating rule number one. It certainly does not. You can send me ebooks all day long, every day. You send as many ebooks as you want. It's just physical books, going to the post office and mailing me a physical book. Okay, well, this is not a physical book. You know how I know? It's not because I'm the amazing Kreskin. It's because it has a power cord attached to it, so it's not a book. It's a piece of technology. Now, I should point out, you're also eagerly encouraged to send me technology. Send me any technology you want. What is this? The bean is suddenly interested. Hi, baby. I don't think this is anything for you, little girl. This looks like a purely human thing, little girl. I don't think you're going to be interested. Once you see it, I don't think you're going to be interested. So this is the power cord. USB-C. Very good. Okay, so we've got USB-C. That's good because that's universally adopted pretty much. It's a Priority Mail box. Let's see. Has one of you sent me a device? I ask all the time. I want you to send me your old tech. Your old e-readers especially, but anything that you have that's sitting in that cabinet. You know the cabinet as well as I do. You know you have one. Why should it be sitting there with you never using it when you could send it to me so that I can use it? Or try to anyway. What have we got here? Oh, what is this? Okay, well, it's a tablet. It's a small tablet. Is there a note? Is there a note? Yes, there's a sticky note. This seems like junk. Hope you can make something of it. Very funny. Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Let's see if it has any power. It does have power. So what is this? Let's see if you can find out what this is. The way we do it is to go to the settings. Okay, this is an Alcatel Joy tablet. That's what they call it, a Joy tablet by a very cheap tablet maker. This, I think, is partnered with T-Mobile. So I think you would get one of these with a T-Mobile deal, or you would get it for like $100, something like that. Okay, well, all right. So this is an Alcatel tablet. Okay, so this is what the home screen looks like. As you can see, it has some power, it has a fairly sharp screen, and it also has the Google Play Store, which means I can download. I'll sign into my Wi-Fi, and I'll sign into my Google account and download Google Chrome, so that I have immediate access to my email and Google Docs and whatnot. I can probably also get the Amazon app from the Google Play Store. I'm pretty sure I can get the Barnes & Noble Nook app from the Google Play Store, maybe the Kobo app. I can get all the reading apps. Great. Okay, there's a camera. Is the camera any good? Yes, the camera is quite good. Very sharp. For a device like this, very sharp. Well, okay. All right, I can fiddle around with this on my own. That will take about an hour to do. It'll take about an hour. I'll charge this up to 100%, and then it'll take about an hour to completely personalize this. I'll want to add Google Chrome and all of its connected accounts. I'll want to add my Precious Weather accounts so that I can look at live radar and live Doppler and whatnot. I'll want to add YouTube and Instagram and Twitter and all of that stuff. I wonder how customizable this is. It's probably quite customizable. What have we got for storage? This has 32 gigs of built-in storage. That's plenty for the suite of apps that I would use. That would probably be restrictive if you want to do a lot of high intensity gaming on this thing. You probably couldn't do that very well on this thing, but 32 gigs is fine for me. That's plenty. Okay, so this has a bunch of stock apps right now on it. I will rearrange all of that. I'll figure out the sleep mode and the airplane mode and any ways to extend the battery life. I'll find out what the battery life is like. I know of this device. This is it's a fairly standard budget iPad mini sized device. That often these things, these sort of stock Android things, they're often sold for very little money, but if you fiddle around with them a little, you can often zoop them up so that they're functionally no different from an iPad for a tenth the price, literally a tenth the price. So I'll have to find out. I'll find out what the battery life is like. There's no way for me to know that now. I'll need to charge this to full 100% and then unplug it and use it until it dies, until I get down to 15%, something like that, and find out how long that takes. I like the feel of it. It's got a sort of a textured back. It's not a slick metal back. It's plastic. But although I imagine there are probably tech heads who would say that looks and feels cheap. I always like it. It's nice and grippy. It's easy to grip. Now see that the screen went dark after a few seconds. I'll have to go into the settings and fix that. I want to tell the machine when it shuts down. I don't want the machine doing that. I want to do it. And a whole bunch of other things too. Turn off all notifications. Turn off all location devices. Turn off anything like that. I'll have to go into the settings and just knock down every single one of those. If this has an onboard digital assistant, that not only needs to be disabled, but if possible, removed from the device. Because even if you disable it, it's still listening. I'd rather find out a way to just wrench it off the device completely. Get rid of all notifications. I don't need to know when I get a new tweet or when I get a new comment on a video or anything like that. Yeah, I'll have to do. See, it went dark again. I'll have to fix all of that. I'll fix all the parameters. But good Lord, whoever sent this, thank you very much. I will find out who did this. So this is USB-C. Up at the top there. You have a headphone jack up top there. This thing, I believe, that little window right, that little circle right there, I believe that is a control that used to exist on devices like this all the time. I forget the name of it, but I think that little circle allows me to get this machine to act as a remote control for a TV or something. I think that will allow me to do that. Of course, it won't allow me to do that because I would never use it for that. What else have we got here? Let's look around. So we have the volume controls and the power button on the side there. Your speakers are on the bottom. What else? Oh, okay. Well, I don't have a device in order to open this, but I do have them. I don't have them right here. There's a SIM card tray on the side there. Can you make that out? See, you've got the side there, and then up at the top, you have that little dimple. There's a SIM card tray right there, which is great. I wonder if this means that this could be used as a phone, or maybe not. Maybe it's just a micro SD card so that I could expand the memory. That would be great. That would be fantastic, and that would make sense too, because this type of tablet, these type of $100 tablets, are usually the type of thing that parents get for their kids. I guarantee you that in the settings of this thing, there is a way for me to completely firewall this off for a kid so that I can hand it to them and they can't get anywhere except their own restricted area. They need a PIN code to leave that area. I guarantee that is possible. All of these things have that. That's what they're for. Parents who have a huge a car ride across the state of Texas, they'll just get one of these for each kid and hand it to them. Here you go. Keep yourself amused. Try not to drive me absolutely crazy. And I guarantee that those controls will be in here. But if that's true, I know that it must be true. All of these budget tablets are like that. They all have that partitioning. And if they have that partitioning, then almost certainly that little divot on the side will allow me to expand the memory on this thing enormously, probably up to 150 gigs, 200 gigs, something like that, so that you could load movies onto this thing is basically what I'm saying. So that you could load movies onto you can't do it now, but I bet that tray. I'll have to find my. I have a SIM card opening device to get in that tiny little hole. I'll have to see what that's like, and this will have a whole bunch of other customizable items in it. I wonder when this was made. I wonder how new a device this is. Are you going to be able to tell me that, darling, or are you not? Well, no, it's not going to be able to tell me. It's not going to be able to tell me in any kind of convenient sense while I'm on the computer here, while I'm making a video with you. But I bet I can find out from this device when this was made. I bet it's not old at all. I wonder now why it was sent to me. Is it defective in some way, or is it just that, there are some brand snobs who look at a thing like this and say, oh, this must be cheap. But these things aren't. They're usually quite good. This could easily be your only tablet and work really well once you tweak it a little. It doesn't take much tweaking because it already gets the Google Play Store. That's the main tweak that you have to do with, for instance, slaved devices for like Amazon. We get an Amazon Fire tablet, which is very similar to this. The make and model, I'm sure that the specs would be almost identical. If you get an Amazon Fire tablet, when you open the package, it'll be slaved to the Amazon system, doing you precious little good. Instead, what you want to do is root it and strip the Amazon skin off it so that it's just like this, a completely normal Android device that you can then use for anything, including getting the Google Play Store, which opens you up to I don't even know, hundreds of thousands of apps. Any conceivable app that you could want, pay or free, is in the Google Play Store. And I think, if I remember correctly, see, the thing keeps turning off. I don't let my tablets do that. I don't let them do that. Yeah, this has the Google Play Store pre-installed, so I will be able to dig right in. Oh, wow, this is wonderful. All right, well, okay, it's not a book, but it's going to have 1,000 books on it by tonight. So that is great. Thank you, whoever you were. That's wonderful. Let this be a lesson to the rest of you. Send Steve your tech, any tech that you're not using. Give it a good home. Why should it be sitting in a cabinet when it can be lovingly used by me? So feel free to do that. Keep in mind, I have seen the light when it comes to e-ink e-readers. I now love them. Absolutely, thoroughly love them. I think it was just the other night that I had an experience. I was reading on my iPhone, or my iPad mini. I was reading on my iPad mini. I wasn't thinking anything of it because I've been saying all along on this channel that I don't really seem to experience the eye strain that so many of the rest of you do, that leads you to e-ink displays, that leads you to dedicated e-readers. The backlit blue light screens can often do that, and people complain about it. And I take those complaints seriously, but I'd never felt them myself. So I was reading on the iPad, and then, what was it? Oh, right. Everything was done. All my work was done. All my reading was done. It was like 3:30 or 4 in the morning, and I wanted to get a little sleep. So I was reading on the iPad sort of after everything was done, a little extra cheat reading, and then I thought, oh, no, I should stop. So I turned the iPad off and immediately shut the light off, and that's when I noticed that the rectangular image of the screen of the iPad was still completely visible on my eyeball. So it wasn't eye strain, but I bet that's not healthy. And I noticed that nothing like that even remotely happens with an e-ink display. So I've been reading those, and that's been a lot of fun. But the one major e-ink e-reader that I have never even held in my hands, much less used, is a Kobo, the world's second most popular e-reading device, and I have never even touched one. I've never used one in any way, and I guarantee you that one of you listening to this video has a Kobo in a cabinet somewhere that you never use because you have a new Kobo. You know what to do. All right, well, there is the mail. So we have a dinosaur book, fantastic, about T-Rex. We have a 20-year comeback of a Cuban author. And actually, I didn't check. Is this translated? No, this is written in English. And we have what I'm pretty sure is the Alcatel Joy tablet, whether it's the Joy 1 or the Joy 2. But the sharpness of the camera leads me to think it's the Joy 2, which will take a lot of exploring. This will be a massive effort of will, because I have a lot of stuff to do before I allow myself to play with this thing. I'll do all that stuff, and then I will play with this thing. But anyway, that's the mail for today. Very interesting last-minute twist there. I'm going to stop this video for now and go out and see what the rest of Hyde Cottage is like. But I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.